There is a very thin wall between your current life situation and a life where you would just enjoy every moment of it. A life where you could enjoy the raw experience of life without the need of overstimulation, where you could just go outside and be grateful to breathe the fresh air, where you would just be aware of the structure of the leaves and the trees, where you would be grateful to have all your friendships and all the things that you've ever purchased or accomplished. That's a life that's very close to what we should all be feeling. And that's a life that is arguably close to what our ancestors used to feel. Because you could just imagine them spending their time when they didn't have any tasks on a regular day, laying down, looking at the sky, being stimulated by just watching the clouds move. They didn't really have a lot of activities to do, but now we do. We have so many opportunities. We could travel abroad, we could go ahead and experience certain things with our friends and play sports. And we are still sad, we are still unsatisfied and depressed. Don't you think that's unfair? Thinking about your ancestors and everything they went through and the dangers they had. Now we have everything and we're unhappy. To some extent, it's understandable. We are like this because we just see how much better life could be. We see it on social media all the time. We see our friends posting their nicest moments. We see other people just traveling all the time. We are able to see glimpses of the life of rich people. So we kind of feel behind. Like people back then didn't really have this. Maybe they saw the nobles from time to time, but I believe most of them would just see people that were close to their life situation as well. So they didn't really feel like they're missing out so much. But we can't really do anything about this. Not everyone can become rich and travel all the time and be happy all the time, because also what you see on social media is just an illusion, it's just appearances. But what we could do is take care of our own lives and make sure we enjoy them truly. That's completely up to us. If you want your life to feel good all the time, that's 100% your responsibility. Because the world is not going to give you anything. You have to make it. So, if you're currently seeing your life as being too boring and you aren't really able to be grateful about it, you would wish something was different, then you need a switch in perspective. This is similar to the concept of Stoicism. It's all about you. You are the ruler of your own mind and you are responsible for the way you see the world. Now, if you are overstimulated all the time, that's going to be impossible because nothing that's out there compares with what the virtual world can give you. Now, is that a good existence to be overstimulated all the time, to play video games, to watch short form content for hours and hours and hours? It's a pleasurable life, definitely, in the moment, but just due to the fact that you're alive, you are inevitably going to encounter situations in life where you need a certain set of skills. Those skills can only be developed if you go ahead and encounter trial and error and you gain them in the real world, not in the virtual world. So basically, if you keep consuming, you are getting nowhere in life. If you keep over consuming, opportunities will go past you and you will not be able to take them. I'm sure you have an ideal vision of your life, somewhere you want to get to. Maybe it's buying a house or a car or moving out somewhere or, reaching a certain level in your career. All of these things are just impossible if you're over consuming all the time, every single day, because it just rewires your brain in a way that's not perfectly adapted to what's out there. There is a version of you that's not overstimulated all the time, and that version of you is a lot more aware of the opportunities. The version of you that's just spending hours and hours and hours locked up in their room, watching content, playing video games, that version of you is basically getting nowhere. It's just living an average life. And all the goals you've ever dreamed of will always still be goals and dreams. They will never be accomplished because it's impossible. That version that's overstimulated can never reach that point. Now, on the other hand, if you were to step out of this overstimulating environment, if you were to let go of the virtual world and your attachment to it, you would feel bad. You would feel horrible because the real world is not that stimulating. The real world has people and situations that trigger you, and you don't like to be triggered. Like, who likes to be triggered? It's a horrible experience where your lizard brain just takes over, you're in fight or flight, and you don't really have that much control over you. But the real world is, unfortunately, the place where everything happens. The virtual world is just an illusion. You are not going to accomplish anything worthy there. Now, of course, there are people that are professional video game players and stuff like that, but I'm sure you're not one of them. Stepping away from the virtual world is the first step to feeling good. I vividly remember how I used to feel when I was overstimulating myself, locked up in my room all the time and playing video games and watching short form content, watching longer form content as well, but just consuming all the time, producing and creating basically nothing. The the raw experience of life was my thoughts used to be poisoned by ideals and visualizations of the virtual world. I would always think about it. But then, when I went through my overconsumption detox, I started experiencing life truly, more deeply. And then my basic thoughts were about the real world, about how I can and what I can do to become better, to go ahead and realize stuff about myself, to learn more about the world in general, because that's everything you need to advance in life. You can also advance in a video game, it might be nice, but at the end of the day, you will probably, like, you don't really want to play that video game forever. There are a lot of people that make this analogy that life is a video game, and that's very true. Like, you could treat life as a video game, you could treat your gym progress as a video game, or your business progress, or your career progress. Because it's very, very similar. You advance through levels, you need to work hard. And the thing is that if you are a person that plays video games, or used to play video games, you have the potential to do it. You have the potential to accomplish success in real life. It's just about that small switch to let go of what's there, of all your progress there, and to go ahead and work on it in real life. Now, if you've already accomplished that, and let's say you are more of a high achiever, you have some results, you are working, maybe you're employed, maybe you're a student, and you still feel like life is not that great. You're just working all the time and you're doing all the good things, you're staying inside and reading in your free time and meditating and all of these healthy habits. Perhaps you just need to be a bit more adventurous. And what I mean by that is not necessarily to go ahead and engage in dangerous activities or travel every single month, but you could just take a walk to places nearby where you've never been to. You could take one of your friends and go ahead and experience a certain restaurant you've never been to. Wherever you are, there is at least one certain hill you've never climbed. And you could still go there all the time. You could still, like, even in the places and the streets you're walking every single day, there are so many details you've never seen. And when you become mindful of them, it just gives you a bit of dopamine, to be honest, especially if you're not overstimulated by default. And that's a sign that you are living a mentally healthy life. You can never consider your life to be boring. If you do, it's your fault and it's your responsibility to fix it. It's not about what's out there, it's not about what happened to you, it's all about how you view the world. And when you take ownership of that, of the fact that it's all up to you, you can make that simple switch. You can pass through the wall, and life just becomes so much more beautiful. It's not about having more and more and more and going in more and more and more places. It's really just about your perception of perhaps the same places. Now that doesn't mean you shouldn't strive for more. It doesn't mean you shouldn't experience new things and, travel in new places. But it's just that if you're unable to do that, instead of going back to overconsumption, just be more mindful. Because it's always going to be a better alternative.